Brewed Hearts. Leslie was the proprietor of Second Cup Cafe, an inviting little establishment where the aroma of dark roast coffee intertwined with the melodies of classic love songs. This place constituted her universe, dependable, warm, and secure. One rainy Tuesday, Ricardo appeared, his scrub top moist from the downpour, looking as though he hadn't slept properly in days. He was a surgical technician with weary hands, but an inquisitive spirit. That initial cup of coffee paved the way for subsequent ones. Gradually, their chats evolved from superficial pleasantries to profound discussions. They covered a wide range of topics: fractured families, hidden aspirations, the type of love that inflicts a pleasant sort of pain. Initially, they were merely two individuals sharing an appreciation for coffee and fine music. Yet something felt distinct. It commenced with extended nights of text exchanges, minute confessions shared in the stillness of the late hours. Lyrics were exchanged frequently. Can't help falling in love. Let's stay together. Love anthems that first found their place on the cafe's playlist, and subsequently within their own hearts. They exchanged declarations of "I love you" long before any physical contact occurred. Initially, it wasn't centered on the physical aspect. It was an affection that developed gradually, quietly, akin to a seed taking root in the crevices of their friendship. For a decade, they orbited one another, best friends privy to too much information. They shared inside jokes, accumulated memories, and bore mutual scars. Everyone presumed they were romantically involved. Perhaps they already were, just lacking the formal label. Then it finally transpired. One evening, with no remaining defenses, fueled only by wine and the low hum of love songs, they kissed as if they had anticipated that single moment for their entire lives. And in that instant, everything shifted. It was idyllic initially, shared mornings before their respective shifts began, affectionate notes scribbled on coffee sleeves, texts confessing, "I miss you already," even after having spent the night together. A decade's worth of suppressed emotion finally given room to surface. However, love constructed upon years of careful restraint can fracture under the pressure of expectations. She envisioned a future together within the cafe, within the life they had carefully constructed. He felt unsettled, apprehensive, uncertain about transitioning their friendship into something permanent. Minor disagreements began to surface. Text messages lost their affectionate tone. The music playing in the cafe started to feel excessively loud, overly steeped in nostalgia. Both desired for the relationship to succeed. Yet the timing, even after all those years, remained misaligned. One morning, his coffee sat untouched on the counter. He failed to appear. Not on that day, nor the following one. She kept the playlist unchanged. He never removed her number from his contacts. But occasionally, even the most resilient love cannot withstand the weight of its own past. Part 2. The lyrics and the sweetness. A year elapsed. The cafe remained operational, but Leslie guarded a part of herself. She continued playing the familiar love songs. Her regulars attributed it to her personal style, but in truth, it was an act of remembrance. Each song evoked memories of him, of late-night messages, shared music libraries, whispered "I love yous" that never found a secure harbor. And Ricardo? He immersed himself in his job. Operating rooms, extended shifts, and quiet commutes filled his days. He maintained a facade of being's okay, yet particular songs, specific moments of quiet, continued to devastate him. He longed for the sound of her voice, the taste of her coffee, and her unique insistence on reading the lyrics as if they were sacred text. Then, the flyer appeared. Espresso Art and Music Nights. Create, sip, listen. She discovered it pinned to a community notice board. He spotted it near the hospital elevators. Naturally, they both registered for the event, and naturally, fate positioned them next to each other. The facilitator requested each participant select a song while they practiced swirling espresso and milk into artistic designs. The music was intended to establish the atmosphere, to let the hands express what the heart perceived. Leslie chose Neon Moon by Brooks and Dunn. As the opening notes resonated, she initially avoided his gaze, but when she finally did look, his eyes were already fixed on her. "Typical you," he murmured, his tone teasing yet imbued with a certain tenderness. She offered a slight smile. "It's still a pleasant kind of ache." Then Ricardo selected Strawberry Hills by Nige. This track landed differently, unhurried, vulnerable, aching with a rawness only genuine emotions possess. She turned towards him, visibly surprised. His taste usually inclined more towards soulful than sentimental. "That one has been playing constantly for me," he admitted. "You'd appreciate the lyrics." She remained silent, simply offering a nod, because she instinctively knew she would. As they poured and swirled, their hands moving with practiced ease, dormant emotions resurfaced from the fissures between them. It wasn't immediate reconciliation, it wasn't flawless, but it felt authentic. "Read the lyrics, Ricardo," she requested, her voice soft. Ricardo met her gaze, his expression a mixture of a half smile and a silent confession. "Only if you share something sweet with me." She offered no verbal response. She simply allowed herself to be present in the moment. They lingered until the venue lights were lowered and the music gradually ceased. They departed together, enveloped in a comfortable, meaningful silence. This time, no commitments were made. Only the subtle contact of her hand against his. Only the music suspended between them. Because sometimes love doesn't require mending. Sometimes all it needs is patience and the appropriate melody. Part 3. The Second Pour. "Are you frightened?" she inquired softly. "Utterly," he confessed, "but I'm present." And perhaps that was the most crucial element. Not declarations, not ideal timing, simply being there. They didn't term it a fresh start. They didn't assign it any label at all. They merely continued to appear. One coffee, one song, one unhurried dance at a time. Because sometimes love isn't fully realized in a single brewing. Sometimes it necessitates a second pour. For several weeks they established their cadence within the cafe's quiet nooks. Sunday mornings accompanied by blueberry scones. Tuesday evenings when she'd permit him to flip the open sign to closed, just so they could sit together in tranquility. No definitions, no demands, just embracing whatever this connection was. Gentle, secure, unhurried. He began leaving a personal mug at the cafe, a chipped vessel with a faded pattern she had once described as endearingly unattractive. She made a point not to wash it unless he missed 2 consecutive visits. He never did, until one particular day he simply failed to arrive. No phone call, no text message, no flyer from the hospital bulletin board. Only stillness. She prepared his usual coffee regardless, positioned the mug on the counter, remained past closing time, rationalized that he was likely detained by a late surgery, or perhaps he had overslept, or maybe days turned into a week. Then 2 weeks elapsed. His mug remained undisturbed, her playlist gradually softened. No Strawberry Hills, no jazz tunes, just the persistent drone of the espresso machine and the heavy burden of uncertainty. She refrained from seeking him out. Was it pride? Possibly. Fear? Likely. But primarily, she held the conviction that if his presence was meant to be, he would be there. Nevertheless, each time the entrance bell chimed, her gaze lifted. Just in case. It wasn't precisely heartbreak. It was an emptiness configured in the shape of someone who once lingered late to wipe down tables he wasn't employed to clean. Someone who recalled her preferred passage in every single song. She didn't cease playing music, she didn't cease serving coffee, but she did cease anticipating his return. Love, she came to understand, isn't always vanquished with a formal goodbye. Sometimes it is extinguished by silence. Sometimes even the second pour eventually grows cold.